Did the mid-19th century increase in immigration lead to the Civil War? We tend to think that the Civil War emerged only from slavery issues. However, immigration played a major role in the outbreak of the Civil War. First, immigrants from Ireland and Germany moved to the north, giving them political power. Secondly, German immigrants in the north added to the abolitionist cause. And third, Irish abuse led many of them to oppose abolition. Okay, the first point is that immigrants from Ireland and Germany moved to the north, transmitting power to the Union. In 1830, Jackson's land policy made free land available to immigrants. They could basically gain citizenship as soon as they arrived in America. Therefore, immigration spiked in the 1830s through 60s. Many Irish and Germans moved to the north because it was more industrial and there were more jobs, unlike the South where all the work was being done by slaves, so there was no jobs for immigrants. The German immigrants were fleeing from the Revolution of 1848 in Germany. The Irish were coming from the potato famine. The Irish potato famine was caused by a fungus-like organism that killed most of the potato crop in Ireland. They had a feudal-like system where they had many tenants working under masters. The serfs' diet was mostly made up of potatoes. Because they had no food during the famine, the masters had to find another way to feed their serfs. So they imported cornmeal from America and also gave them seaweed, which was grown in Ireland. Soon the masters realized that it would be cheaper to ship the serfs to America. So that is what they did. They gave them tickets and sent them off. So that's why so many Irish went to America. Now that there were so many immigrants coming into the north, there were more voters, and they were anti-slavery. This led the Southerners to fight because they knew that they couldn't win a vote for slavery against the North. Many immigrants also joined the war on the side of the Union. Patrick Young says, quote, "Immigrants gave the North an incalculable advantage. It could never have been won without them," unquote. My second point is that German immigrants added to the abolitionist movement. Many moved to the Midwest to form like they had back at home in Germany. They fled from the Revolution, especially where many students had revolted, and they were sent away to flee the new government. So, since they had been oppressed in Germany, they were mad when they saw the slaves being treated like they were. So they joined the abolitionist cause. Karl Schurz, who was a German immigrant, was enraged by what he saw. Quote, "I've seen it often enough how the poor slaves were sold away from their wives and their children," unquote. So he saw their awful conditions. Another way that the Germans influenced the abolitionists was started by Friedrich Ludwig Johann, who invented gymnastics. He invented this as a way to train young men for war. He didn't like that the Germans were being beat by Napoleon, so he started his gymnast army. His followers were called the Turners, and many of them lived in the Midwest, and they were specifically radical abolitionists. Lincoln recognized that their support would be valuable, so he bought a German newspaper during his campaign. The support of these Germans tipped the ballot in his favor, and he wouldn't have become president without them. Thirdly, many Irish immigrants opposed abolition because they were abused. The Irish were very poor and they had little education. It was hard to get land because they came later, so they were forced to go west. So they felt like they used to be slaves and they kind of still were really poor. So they didn't want to help the slaves, and a lot of them were against abolition. The Irish were also Catholic and they were unpopular, so they stopped some of the Protestant parties that were going on, so they weren't popular. Frederick Douglass said, quote, "Poor Irish immigrants are a great obstacle to the cause of abolition." So Frederick Douglass, who was a great abolitionist, obviously he didn't like them because they weren't helping. Many Irish also became angry because they were drafted as soon as they arrived in America. They saw that the Native Americans who were there first, and it was their country, they weren't even drafted. So a lot of these Irish started a riot. They raided all the bars in New York and got their beer. So they got drunk and they murdered and killed as many Native Americans as they could find. This was called the New York Draft Riots. So even though we think that the Civil War was caused only by issues over slavery, immigration played a major role in the outbreak of it. First, immigrants from Ireland and Germany transmitted power to the North. Second, German immigrants joined the abolitionist movement. And third, Irish's poor conditions led them to opposing abolition. Thank you.